Well, cities across America in the grips of a devastating police officer shortage. Now, some are recruiting illegal immigrants to try and fill that growing gap. Seattle is the latest city to advertise police officer jobs to DACA recipients, people who were brought to the country illegally as children but have grown up in America. Illinois, Washington, Colorado, and California are among the states that have passed laws to allow so-called dreamers to become police officers. New Jersey and Wisconsin are considering legislation. Virginia's legislature passed a law to allow dreamers to become police officers, but it was vetoed against by Governor Glenn Youngkin. Jason Rantz, radio host on KTTH Radio in Seattle, reported that the city's police force is at its lowest staffing levels in almost 70 years. The desperate department now among the growing list of those turning to DACA recipients. Let's bring in Jason to shed more light on this issue. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Jason, what I could not determine from what we've read there and what you've talked about is whether or not you even support the idea of DACA recipients becoming police officers. Do you or don't you, and why or why not?
So if there becomes some certainty that DACA is not going to be overturned and deemed unconstitutional and somehow stalled, even more than it currently is or really reversed, then I'm in favor of it, generally speaking. We have obviously police departments across the country that are struggling. If you're in this country illegally through no action of your own, you were brought here as a child, I don't really see a significant issue with it. Although I will acknowledge the optics are a little bit weird that you're hiring someone who's in this country illegally to then enforce the law. I do think you have to get over that hurdle, but I think ultimately if someone's here and they're willing to contribute to our society, they're trying to make us safer, I don't see a huge problem with it.
And is that pretty much the same sentiment you're getting from people on your show as well who call in or that you speak with?
Well, I mean, conservatives are a little bit mixed on this. Liberals here are very much in favor of this idea and expanding it. The problem is I just fear that these police departments might be setting themselves up for a policy shift. Even when we're talking about this current administration, let's take the courts out completely. You still have the ATF currently saying, and this is as of January of this year, that sure, illegal immigrants or DACA recipients who are officers can carry firearms. And that's obviously a key part of the job. But that ATF guideline can go away with the new administration. That ATF guideline could go with the new ATF leadership. We just don't know where that's going to go. And I fear that we're putting a lot of resources and attention into this specifically without likely getting a whole bunch of new applicants and then having to reverse course and just save face.
Jason, once again, it sounds like we need Congress to actually act and do something. Wow. What's a realistic solution that would support understaffed police departments if indeed they are having a shortage and this does not go forward if U.S. citizenship is actually a prerequisite for joining?
Yeah, so there's two things that can be done. Some of it depends on what state we're talking about, but if you had any criminal justice reforms that ended up, pardon the lazy pun, but handcuffing police officers from doing their jobs, you have to reverse course. On top of that, any of these departments that suffered councils or mayors or state legislatures that were just pounding them for 2 or 3 years, calling them racist, calling them evil, saying that they should be defunded, those are the folks who have to reverse course publicly and state it loudly and clearly so that you're actually recruiting people who want to be a part of these police departments. Because if you're going to be called murderers forever, if activists within communities are going to have a louder voice than the average person, no one's going to want to become a cop. And that's what they're dealing with right now in cities, including Seattle, where they're getting paid a lot of money. But people still don't want to step up because they don't think they're going to have the support of the locals of the government.
It's almost pedagogy of the oppressed as well there, Jason, where those who have sometimes been targeted or pilloried by members of communities who have not wanted them in their communities to now become police officers would be interesting in and of itself. You also say that this could open the door for dreamers to receive preferential treatment for hiring. Isn't this a good thing that would help to actually expand the applicant pool for struggling departments?
Sure. It's not necessarily a bad thing to widen the pool. I do think it's a bad thing to give preferential treatment to someone simply because they're a DACA recipient. I think if you have anyone who is qualified and willing to do the job, including qualified Americans who speak another language, they should be treated just as equally as anybody else. So I'm against those kinds of preferential treatments across the board. I want people who are qualified. I'm in the department of beggars can't really be choosers at this point, so long as we have someone who just meets the basic qualifications.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.